Take me to the water.
So, what do you want to talk about? You said you had stuff.
Huh?
For Insert Disc 2, you said you had tons of stuff.
Is it on?
We're on.
Yeah, you got that right, Pix. Good God Almighty. So let me tell you about my ride over here, Mr. Boat.
Okay. So is this going to be the title of the episode? Aaron talks about his commute.
Well, no, I listen. Don't make me. I swear to you, I will run you over with the car. So they're doing all this construction here. Just keep filling it with the.
Yeah, I keep forgetting to switch over.
They're doing all this construction, as you know. So I knew it might be a tough chore to get here, but I left a little early. And immediately hit traffic right around the mall, okay? And so I thought, well, this probably isn't good. Actually, it was past the mall because I thought I'm going to try my luck today. And my luck was holding out great. I could see the Milton exit sign.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But then traffic stopped, and then I saw 1, 2, 3 ambulances, 2 fire trucks, a mystery hazmat vehicle. Then I knew it was going south when a chopper landed on the middle of the interstate.
Yeah, that's
not good.
That's a bad sign.
And I found out as my mom and dad were going to the mall, they saw what had happened. They said there's some cars there was 2 separate wrecks. That's what happened. So I sat there for an hour, and I called you. I'm like, we're boned. It's over. The dream is dead. So but I saw that chopper drop. I was like, well, they're going to be here for a while. So I eased up the berm and cut across a little emergency dealio and went back to the mall. Because I didn't want to do that, but I was almost out of gas. My thing, I was like, man, I've been sitting so long around my gas out.
And you've got that off-road machine.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I went directly
to Sheetz?
I passed the mall, because there was too much traffic, and I went to the Barbersville exit, came back around, and I thought I'll just come out the back way and just go to the gas station. Standstill traffic on the Route 60.
Oh.
So I hit my blinker. I cut in front of a guy. He let me over. I did a U-week, got back on the interstate, and then I saw they were flagging everyone off at the mall exit. Mm-hmm. So I got off there, but everyone was turning left at me. So I got in the middle lane, went to Sheetz, filled up on gas, and at this point I was just disgusted.
Right.
I went into Sheetz. I was like, listen, here's what I want you guys to give me. Give me 2 cookies, give me a soda pop, give me a pack of cherry cigars, and a lighter. I was done. So I'd been in the car at this point for an hour and a half. Mm-hmm. I went out, I parked at the back of Sheetz. I just lit up a cigar, I smoked it, I just sat there stewing for a while. And then I lit up another one, I stewed some more. I got in the car, and I was like, well, I'm going to go ahead and try to get to Milton. 40 minutes later, I pulled in here, and it was, I don't know what time it is now, but it was probably...
It was past 7.
7:20, something like that. And it was a long, long haul to get up here. But my dedication is such that I didn't want to deprive our good and dear friends of some Amigos action. Plus, I couldn't get home. So there's also that. And so here I am. So it was a long day.
Pixels, people in the chat, if you want to Google Sheetz at the Barbersville Mall, you
may be able to zoom in and see a picture of me in the back smoking a cigar. I haven't smoked anything for it's been New Year's Eve. It was the last time I smoked a cigar, so it was good. Didn't have my brand.
What's your brand?
Cheyenne Cherry Cigars. That's my brand.
You know what I like? Were the little cigars that have the wood tips?
I hate that. Oh, the wood.
Yeah,
they're
the
not
wood
too bad.
tips.
Yeah, they're okay.
Yeah.
So, what did you do? We'll get a weekend story. What did you do? Let's hear some boat tales.
Well, it's been a busy week for the band.
Yeah.
You know, I took my students up to my alma mater, Ohio University.
Yeah.
And the trip itself was spectacular. The weather was great. I got introduced when the director of the OU jazz program introduced me as one of our best students ever, John Schaller.
Wow.
That made me feel good. Clearly he was mistaken. But
slip him a 10 or something.
The fun part of the trip was when we went for lunch, and as we were driving back into campus, we're driving through the student housing section. Okay. And at OU, I don't know if this is like this at many campuses, but the parties start early at OU. And so there are already women wearing almost nothing, hanging out on porches, guys without their shirts, dancing around, much drunken buffoonery. And the kids are just hanging out the windows, the boys are going insane. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get complaints from parents. Luckily, nobody said anything, but and there were a bunch of parents with us that were just laughing because they know what it's like. But yeah, it brought me back to the old campus days. Do you remember when you were living on Did you live on 4th Avenue?
Yeah.
Yeah. I bet you saw some debauchery going down in your neck of the woods there in Huntington.
I can't go into it too much, but yeah, I hosted quite a bit of debauchery. I should have went to class every once in a while. That was my downfall. But yeah, now Marshall is not OU.
Yeah,
let's face
it's
facts.
a different.
But I saw some chicanery, some debauchery.
Well, you've got the advantage / disadvantage of living in the middle of a city. OU, all the people partying are people that go to the college, but you get your normal people partying, and those can be the scariest.
Yeah. It was, but I have been up to OU when there was parties going on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, OU is like the campus is like a city. It's bigger than any city probably in our state. It's just their campus. It's huge.
It's a big place.
Yeah, it's big. So you had a good time up there.
We did have a good time. Then we had we had our ratings festival where the band played in front of judges. You remember what that was like?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And so it was the first time that we've gotten straight ones, the top score you can get in 4 years. So kids were happy. I was happy.
Very good. Good job, dude.
Yeah. So
and this was a Saturday when you were doing this?
That was on Tuesday. The Jazz Festival was on Saturday. Ratings was on Tuesday, and all area band was on Thursday.
While you were doing your jazz festival, I was watching two men staple dollar bills to each other.
Yes.
Hideous, bloody wrestling.
Tell me about the IWC.
IWA.
Oh, what's IWC?
I don't know. I have no
I don't
idea
know
what
either.
that is, Boat. Now, we went and saw me and Amigo Leroy and Amigo Teresa. I guess she's Amiga. Went over to see IWA wrestling in Canal City. Did you know Canal City has the sports complex here in the valley?
Mm-hmm.
They've got one, but theirs is in a much different place. So we pull into this alley. I used to work in Canal City. I've never seen this place. And as we're driving down through, I'm like, man, this looks rough. And we look, and on the right is the sports complex. On the left is a biker bar.
Oh, my gosh.
I was like, holy crap. So we parked and went in. And it turned out to be a real good place to watch wrestling. They had a good crowd, and we had a good time at the show. There were some good matches. There were some horrible matches. There was that one thing I wanted to mention. There was a girl there that said she was from the UK, and she called herself what was it? She called herself. She was a lady of color, and she called herself the Duchess. She'd be like, I want all you West Virginians to bow down to the Duchess. And it was the worst hick British accent. It'd be worse than mine. So, and then she would.
Are you sure she just wasn't from UK?
No, she said no. She said she was from London. And she wrestled this other girl who was one of the worst matches. We could get on this table and have a better match right now than these two girls did. But by God, they tried. And they failed, but they tried, and it was funny to watch them miss stuff by like this far.
So where does this fall on the scale with the midget wrestling?
The midgets were better, much better. This is somewhere. It wasn't as bad as the time I saw Santa Claus wrestle down in Ohio, but it was better than that. It was worse. It was number 2 or 3. It was god awful. It was really bad. But the rest of the show was pretty fun. We got to meet Madman Pondo. That was kind of fun.
Is he a kind of a legend?
Yeah, he's sort of a legend. He also runs the promotion, and it was cool. And the match we saw Pondo in, he was taking on the Jugulator, who I guess is a juggalo
ICP.
wrestler.
Were those guys in attendance?
They were not.
Oh, okay.
The ICP would not come to Canal City. But they had a match called an Unlucky 13 match because it was Friday the 13th. And they stapled. You had to staple $7 bills to your opponent to win the match. Yeah, so they were stapled up. I put a picture up on it.
I saw the picture of the ring. The ring looked to be the most nasty surface that's ever been created.
The ring broke. In fact, it was the boards broke, and so every time they would step in the middle of the ring, it was like hee-haw. You remember the old thing where the board would come out and smack you on the ass? The board would pop up. And I told the photographer, I'm like, hey, I was like, you work for these guys, don't you? She's like, I was like, that board's going to get somebody killed. And she's like, Well, I don't really talk to the wrestlers. I just take the pictures. I'm like, all right.
All right.
So finally, Pondo and the Juggernaut went to work in the ring, and they were making fun of the ring. Like, look at this. And they're like, we have to be idiots to actually work in this ring. And he was right. And then after the intermission, they went out and fixed the ring. But it was not a good ring.
Does the ring travel with the circuit, or is the ring erected right there just from whatever's
Probably
around?
a locally owned ring, I would guess. But sometimes they do travel. Then some people just own the ring. I remember seeing these guys wrestling in Huntington, and they were horrible. It's his brothers. And I would ask people, how are these guys getting booked? I mean, they're horrible. And they were like, they own the ring. So
Interesting.
Sometimes you can just get booked by.
You ever think about opening up your own ring rental service?
I don't have a ring. So, no, I never thought of that.
You can store it in the arcade.
No, I can't. There's arcade games in there. Oh, you reminded me of something else I want to talk about. So, anyway, it's just wrestling related. Hey, this is wrestling heavy. This week, there were two very famous wrestlers that passed away. One was number one, Paul Jones. Now,
Stop. Jimmy Snuka is Dwayne Johnson's uncle?
Yes. Those guys are all, like, related.
That's
Island
crazy.
guys.
I had no idea.
What's that with number one, Paul Jones?
Oh, you went like that, and it kind of reminded me of the Up on the Ring,
So, number one, Paul Jones was a manager when I was a kid, and I saw him wrestle Jimmy Boogie Woogie Man Valiant in Huntington. And he was at that time he was getting old, but he was a real big star in the '60s. Mm-hmm. And he was a great manager because he would come out. He was a mid-card manager, and he always had these monsters in his. You would love him. He had guys like the Barbarian and Abdullah and all these
Zeus.
freaks. And he'd be out and he'd always wanted to kill the boogeyman. But I remember he would come out in these bad suits. But for a while he came out dressed like Hitler. Basically, he didn't have the swastika, but he had the brown kind of suit, and he grew a Hitler mustache, and he had his hair parted. But it was like a comedic idiot Hitler. It was I can't explain it, but it was stupid. Sometimes he'd wear a pith helmet. He'd always wear stupid stuff, but I always thought he was amusing. He passed away this week, and then another guy that passed away was Bruno Sammartino. Now he is a big deal. Even if you're not into wrestling, you should know who he is. Bruno lived in Italy during towards the end of the war, the Second World War, and his story is unbelievable. When his town was invaded by Nazis, him and his family moved up into the mountains. Okay, and they had to live up there. And what would happen? And there was nothing to eat. So what would happen is his mom. And what had happened is their dad earlier, like a year earlier, had went to America, and the premise was he was going to go to America and then get arranged for them to be brought over.
Right.
Well, he got over there, and then the Nazis came, so he wasn't even there. He was in America, so it was just the mom and 5 or 6 kids that were up in the mountains. And so Bruno's mom would every couple of days would have to travel down the mountains, and I'm talking like 15, 20-mile hikes, all right? Go back into the town with the Nazis where she would break into her own house and get food.
Wow.
And then get back. She got captured one time, and she knew that the kids were waiting. If she didn't come back, the whole family dies. Okay? She leapt out of the back of a Nazi truck and got shot and just kept going.
Oh my gosh.
And Bruno, I've heard him talk, and his story is unbelievable. He said he was a little kid. He would sit on this pass up in the mountains, and he would just sit there for hours and hours and days, hoping and praying that his mom would appear on that pass to come up the mountain because they thought she would be killed. Mm-hmm. You could think about how horrible that would be. So it's a real incredible tale, and they survived the war. They came to America, and Bruno, where they'd been up in the mountains, they had been malnourished, was a real small little guy, and he used to get picked on because he had a real thick Italian accent. And so as the story goes, one day I don't remember exactly how it happened. He got into like a YMCA or a gym or something and saw some guys lift the weights, and he thought to himself, this is my ticket. I'm going to get some muscles. And so when these guys try to pick on me, every time they beat me up, I'm going to beat them up. Mm-hmm. He ended up becoming a huge Italian powerlifting monster. And eventually got into wrestling and was the longest reigning world champion for the WWF like they've ever had. They'll never be broken. He held it.
What years was that from?
I think it was 63 to 71 or something like that, and then 74 to 78.
How old is the WWF?
Well, this is when it was known as the WWF. He was their second world champion. He wrestled famously Buddy Rogers was their world champion. Nature Boy Buddy Rogers, another very famous wrestler.
The original Nature Boy.
And that's right. And they said, well, listen, you're going to drop the belt to Bruno, and he didn't want to do it. So Bruno told, this is a very famous story. Bruno got in the ring with Buddy. He said, listen, Buddy, he goes, I'm going to win the world title tonight. He goes, there's two ways we can do this. We can do it the easy way or the hard way. And Buddy said, let's do it the easy way. And he beat him in like 30 seconds. And Buddy was out of there because he didn't want to, and Buddy had an attitude. But Bruno was he sold out Madison Square Garden 184 times. If you think, and this is Madison Square Garden that's still there. No easy task. He's got the record by a long shot of selling out the Garden. He was the biggest draw in wrestling for decades.
It's incredible that I've never heard of him.
Yeah, but Bruno he's a hell of a man. He's from Pittsburgh. His whole family moved to Pittsburgh. They got a statue up there for him. He's a huge deal. So, and if you're not into wrestling, you're like, I'm sick of these guys talking about wrestling. You should Google Bruno and look up his life story because he's an inspirational dude, and his mom was a true hero, a legitimate hero who's got her family through the war. And his story is really neat. And I think there's a documentary out about him, too. And there's been talk about a full-length feature movie. He's already vetoed a couple before he died because they would want to add a love interest for his mom. And he was like, listen, my dad was over there. She's not going to how's she going to have a love interest? She's evading Nazis and feeding the family. Man, there's no love interest. And, they're like, oh, that's the way you do it in Hollywood. He's like, that's not the way we're doing it.
Yeah.
He was very, stern, but he's a real sweet guy. And so he'll be missed. He was one of the big, if you have a Mount Rushmore of wrestlers, he's probably number one. That's how big he's one of the top wrestlers of all time.
It's him and then Abdullah.
No, Abdullah not up there. There's no rock. There's no rock face.
I always like having these conversations. So there's 4 faces on Mount Rushmore. Who's on the Mount Rushmore of wrestling?
If you take all of wrestling for all the time.
All of wrestling for all time.
That's tough. That's real tough. I'd say Luthez, Bruno, but then you've got to pick modern guys. If it was me, and this is controversial, I would probably pick Luthez, Bruno, Hulk Hogan, and Ric Flair would probably be the guys.
Who was the first guy? Luthez?
Luthez was the NWA champion in the 50s, and legit shooter, mess you up. And he was champion forever in the NWA. In the old days of wrestling, you never knew when you were going to get double-crossed. And so a lot of the world champions were legitimate shoot fighter types.
Well, I don't know what that means.
They knew actual holds that could actually hurt or maim you.
Oh.
Shooters is what they were called. You would equate them to a modern-day MMA guy.
Okay.
That's like if I said, I want my world champion to be a guy that can handle himself, so I'm going to get like... I'm going to get I don't know, Brock Lesnar, for example, because he's a guy that could legitimately fight.
Yeah.
In the old days, occasionally, some guy would be like, I'm winning the title tonight, and it would just go against the promoter, or I refuse to lose the title.
Oh,
and
wow. So at that point, it becomes real.
Most promoters had a shooter or two in their arsenal. And so these are guys that you would not screw with, right? And Luthez is a guy you absolutely wouldn't screw with. Harley Race is a guy you wouldn't screw with. He's another guy that you would not want to mess around with. And there were others, but I would put. But Luthez was very influential in all of wrestling. But I would put Bruno, probably Luthez number 1, Bruno 2, and then Rick and Hulk Hogan. You could make an argument that like a Rock or a Stone Cold should be on there, and I wouldn't fight you. But longevity's part of it, and you're talking about guys that were around for a lot longer than. Stone Cold was around for a long time, but his drawing years were not super long. These are guys that drew for decades.
Yeah, that I agree with that.
So, do you agree with me, Boat, on that?
I'm with you.
God knows 100%. Who'd be on your Mount Rushmore: Zeus, Abdullah,
that cat guy from the UK.
The cat guy. My God.
Have you watched the Andre documentary yet?
I've not got to see it yet. I've been very busy. Last week I was just gone all weekend, so I'm hoping to take some time this weekend and relax and have some fun.
Yeah, sounds good, man.
And we're off to a great start with a 4-hour car trip so. Well, let's call it a night.
All right, we'll see you next time, guys. Adios.